Hi, this is Charlie Riggins with Pye-Barker. I like to share industry information that matters to the folks keeping plants, shops, utilities, and industrial systems running every day. Not just headlines for the sake of headlines, but the kind of news that connects back to uptime, workforce, equipment reliability, and the real problems maintenance teams face on the floor. So let's keep this simple and talk about why these stories matter to industrial teams across Georgia and Florida. First up, let's start right on the plant floor with a pump component that does not always get much attention until something goes wrong. I was reading an article from Empowering Pumps based on technical guidance from TDIT, and it makes a point every maintenance team ought to hear. Compression packing still matters. Now, I know pump packing is not the most exciting topic in the plant. Nobody starts their morning hoping to talk about stuffing boxes and gland pressure. But when packing fails, everybody notices. You notice the leak, you notice the heat, you notice the cleanup. And if that pump is tied to production, you notice the downtime real fast. The article explains that packing is still a reliable sealing option for tough pump applications, especially where you're dealing with slurry, abrasive media, chemicals, or high temperatures. That hits home for a lot of facilities in Georgia and Florida, from food processing and chemical plants to wastewater, paper, marine, and general manufacturing. Here's the part I think matters most. Packing is not supposed to work like a mechanical seal. A mechanical seal is usually designed to limit leakage as much as possible. Packing works differently. It controls leakage. In many cases, a small controlled drip is what keeps the packing cool and lubricated. That's where good crews can make an honest mistake. They see a drip, grab a wrench, and tighten the gland until everything looks dry. But bone dry is not always good. Too much tightening can create heat, damage the shaft sleeve, and shorten packing life. TDIT also makes a strong point about material selection. Graphite and carbon packing can help with heat. Aramid and phenolic fibers can help with abrasive service. PTFE is often used where chemical resistance is needed. So the question should not be, what packing do we have on the shelf? The question should be, what is this pump actually handling? The wrong packing and the wrong service is not a savings. It is just the next failure waiting to happen. And installation matters too. A worn sleeve, poor ring seating, uneven gland pressure, or a misplaced Lannon ring can all cause early failure, even when the material choice is right. That is why this article matters. Pump reliability is not always about buying something new. Sometimes it is about understanding the equipment you already have and maintaining it correctly. For plants in Florida and Georgia, the takeaway is simple. Do not treat packing like an afterthought. Choose the right material, install it properly, adjust it carefully, and make sure the team understands that controlled leakage can be part of proper operation. The goal is not always zero leakage. The goal is reliable operation. And that brings me to the next story, because reliable equipment is only one side of the equation. You also need trained people who know how to install it, maintain it, and troubleshoot it when something does not look right. I was reading a May 11th release from Governor Brian Kemp's office, and this one matters if you run a plant, a shop, a construction crew, or any industrial operation here in Georgia. Governor Kemp signed 7 workforce-related bills, all aimed at strengthening Georgia's talent pipeline. Now, workforce development can sound like government language, but here's what it means on the floor. More trained people, clearer career pathways, and hopefully fewer open positions sitting empty while production teams are stretched thin. One of the biggest pieces is House Bill 1302, called the Education and Workforce Strategy Act. It creates the Office of Education and Workforce Strategy and gives it the job of coordinating workforce development across state agencies. That matters because manufacturers, contractors, utilities, and industrial service companies do not need disconnected programs. They need a workforce system that understands where the jobs are and what skills those jobs actually require. The package also includes Senate Bill 553, which creates clearer pathways to licensure for certain construction industry professions. That is important for a state still growing fast, with industrial facilities, warehouses, infrastructure projects, and manufacturing expansions all needing skilled trades. Here's my take. You can buy the best pump, compressor, blower, or vacuum system in the world. But if you do not have trained people to install it, maintain it, troubleshoot it, and keep it running, you still have a problem. This is why workforce legislation matters to the industrial world. It is not just about schools or scholarships. It is about uptime. It is about project schedules. It is about whether a plant manager can find the next technician before the current one retires. For Georgia businesses, the message is clear. The state is trying to connect education, apprenticeships, licensing, and high-demand careers into one stronger system. And for industrial employers, now's the time to pay attention. Partner with technical colleges, support apprenticeships, and make sure young workers know there is a real future in the trades. Now, speaking of fast-growing demand, let's move from the workforce pipeline to one of the biggest infrastructure stories in the country right now, data centers. I was reading a Pipeflow article on empowering pumps about mission-critical cooling systems, and this one feels bigger than just pumps, valves, and piping. Data center cooling has become front-page news. That is not something we used to say very often. For years, most folks outside the plant or engineering room did not think much about cooling water systems. They just expected the internet to work, the cloud to stay online, and the servers to keep humming. But with artificial intelligence, cloud computing, and massive data center growth, cooling is now part of the national conversation. And here's the deal. These cooling systems cannot just look good on paper. The article points out that water-based cooling is now foundational for data centers, semiconductor fabs, pharmaceutical plants, and power facilities. It also warns that mission-critical failures often come from system-level problems like hydraulic imbalance, unvalidated redundancy, and pumps that do not match real operating conditions. That matters because turning up the pump is not always the fix. Sometimes it just hides the real problem, wastes energy, and puts more wear on the equipment. In a data center, poor cooling is not a comfort issue. It is an uptime issue. It is a business continuity issue. And when downtime can cost serious money, guessing is not good enough. That is why hydraulic modeling matters. Before you expand a system, add load, shift toward liquid cooling, or assume your backup pump will perform when called on, you need to validate the whole system. Not just the pump, not just the pipe, the whole network. For industrial teams in Georgia and Florida, there is a lesson here too. Whether you are cooling servers, process equipment, compressors, or production lines, the goal is the same. Get the right flow at the right pressure to the right place under real operating conditions. Good design is important, but verified performance is what keeps critical systems running. And when you step back, all three of these stories point to the same bigger message. Reliable equipment matters. Skilled people matter. And systems need to be understood as systems, not just individual parts. That is what keeps plants running, projects moving, and teams from getting surprised at the worst possible time. This is Charlie Riggins with Pye-Barker. Always glad to share useful industry information that helps keep your equipment running and your operation moving. For more pump, compressor, blower, and vacuum system guidance, visit pyebarker.com.